Hello and welcome to my vehicle maintenance guide. Today I'll be showing you how to conduct a daily check on your 4x4 vehicle. For this video I will be using a Toyota Hilux, however everything shown today can be transferred to most modern cars and 4x4 variants. Firstly, I'll be showing you how to conduct your daily check within the engine area. To do this, we have to start by identifying our key elements within the engine bay. Once you have your bonnet propped open, you'll need to identify the key elements you need to be checking daily, where they are, and how to perform a serviceability check. As confusing as it may seem at first when looking at the engine bay, it can all be broken down easily into its main components. For this vehicle, they are brake fluid reservoir, the air filter housing, the coolant reservoir, the radiator, the engine block, including the oil filler cap and oil dipstick, your power steering reservoir, and your batteries. If you're struggling to tell the difference between two fluid reservoirs, here are a few handy tips. The coolant reservoir will be attached with pipes to the radiator and to the engine, as seen here. Many others will have telltale signs to indicate what they house. For example, your oil filler cap will show this symbol, which is a universally recognised symbol for engine oil. Likewise, for this brake fluid reservoir. Descriptions of all symbols can be found in your owner's manual. Now you have identified all your components within your engine bay, I will now demonstrate how to conduct your daily check of these parts. Please bear in mind that all correct PPE, including latex gloves, coveralls and eye protection, should be worn at all times. These checks should be done when the engine is cold due to the pressure build-up that may occur when opening some of these lids for the reservoirs. This could result in burns and or eye damage. First, we're going to be looking at checking the brake reservoir. To start, you need to identify the min and max levels, which will be found on the side of the plastic container. As you can see here, the minimum requirement for brake fluid, and here, the maximum level. The brake fluid should always be within these lines, with no exceptions. Simple opening of the lid to check for contaminants, and a tap on the side will ensure a correct checking of this fluid level. Moving across over now to the air filter housing. This doesn't need to be checked daily, as over checking the air filter could cause rips or tears in the filter paper. What I suggest is a cursory look to check for any build-up of leaves or large debris that could cause a blockage or restrict airflow. Coolant reservoir tank is next. This reservoir is also known as the expansion tank, as the excess coolant from the radiator is housed here. Therefore the min and max levels don't need to be rigidly adhered to. As long as there is sufficient amount in the expansion tank, your coolant level is fine. Safety reminder: the coolant reservoir should only be checked when the engine is cold due to the pressure build-up in the radiator. As before, we're going to be opening the lid, checking for any contaminants and checking the liquid level. As stated, the min and max levels in the coolant reservoir doesn't need to be strictly adhered to, and the amount here is more than sufficient. Moving on to checking the radiator, a cursory look over the fins to make sure no immediate damage is visible or there is any coolant seeping through. A good indication you may have a leak is a slight hissing sound or a build-up of what looks like salt or a white dry texture on the fins. Also, if your vehicle is overheating or is in need of top-ups constantly, this could also be a big sign. Here is an extreme example of a failed radiator to give you an idea of how coolant residue will look. Once you've gave the radiator a visual check, we're going to move on to using the back of our palm to gently rub the radiator to check for debris or coolant leaks. Now we are at the main engine block. The main parts you want to be checking here is security, cleanliness and overall oil level. To check for security, you want to make sure all pipes going to and from the engine block are tight and will not easily come off. Cleanliness refers to any dried or wet patches of oil. This could indicate a leak, but will usually be from overspill of topped up engine fluids, so all stains and wet patches should be rechecked when the engine is running and warm. To check the overall oil level, the dipstick should be removed, cleaned, placed back in the engine and then removed again. This will give you an accurate state of the engine oil. As always, a min and max level will be given and this should be strictly adhered to. Too little or too much is just as problematic for an engine. Moving on down to the power steering reservoir. This is checked same as brake and coolant reservoirs. Check of the lid for contaminants and fluid level check is all that's needed. This is another level that should always be between the minimum and maximum levels. Finally, the last check in the engine bay will be the batteries. Your vehicle may have them like this, or they could be anywhere from the boot to the underside passenger seat. Regardless of where they are have to be checked exactly the same. You want to check for security and serviceability. Make sure the leads aren't loose or have any build up of white powder or any corrosion. If your battery cable ends are greased, this is totally normal and should be left on the terminals. This concludes the engine bay daily checks. Now we're going to finish our daily checks with the vehicle running gear and lights check. The running gear includes the wheels, undercarriage and prop shafts. For ease, use a vehicle inspector's pit or a crawler board. A torch or light source would be beneficial. The rear of the wheel is the main part that we'll be looking at, and we'll be looking for any torn or broken bushes or rubber seals, as well as wet oil patches or leaking joints. We are starting at the front wheels and checking the rubber seals are intact and not corroded or split. We will also be checking the front axle for any play or loose nuts or joints. Down the centre of the vehicle, the prop should be able to turn slightly but not flex or feel insecure. Again, we'll be checking for the rubber seals that they aren't split or corroded. At the rear is the diff housing, and here you should be checking for no leaking or stained oil presence. A simple rub with a glove will give you the all clear. To finish off, we'll move on to our lights check. It would help if you have a partner to help you out with this part, but it can easily be done on your own by having the vehicle opposite a window or close to a wall to see the reflection. The order we'll be checking them in is side lights, dipped, left indicator, right indicator, high beam, hazard lights and windscreen wiper and wash jets. For the rear, we will check rear side lights, brake lights, reverse light, left indicator, right indicator and hazard lights. That concludes my demonstration of daily checks for 4x4 vehicle. If you are struggling to carry out these tasks, please seek help through a qualified mechanic or service centre.